Here's why you should not buy a home. Disclaimer guys, this video is about buying a house in order to live in it and not buying it as an investment, aka buying it in order to rent it out to tenants or buying it and selling it at a higher price in the near future. This is only about you buying the house and living in it. There are plenty of psychological benefits when owning a house, such as having control over where you live and knowing that you have a house no matter what happens outside your house, you have somewhere to live. That being said, this video is only about the financial perspective and that's it. So please don't take my words to heart. I'm just gonna give you my perspective and how I see things when it comes to buying a home in order to live in it. Let me start by saying this. Buying a house isn't for everyone. If you're someone who doesn't know where they're gonna be in the next 5 or 10 years, or you're not planning on committing to one place or one job or one area for the next 5 to 10 years, then buying a house is probably not for you. If you decide to do that and then one day after 5 years or so decide to sell that house and move on, you're probably going to end up losing money due to the very high transaction fees that we're going to talk about later in this video. Buying a home is definitely not an easy process and it requires plenty of planning and budgeting and planning and budgeting and planning. A survey was conducted among homeowners and it showed that 44% of homeowners regret buying a house, and also 63% of millennials regret buying a house as well. The statistics show us that many people actually rush into buying a house, and sometimes it's probably not the smartest financial decision to make or to take. Whatever decision to make or take, they both work, right? Now, I'm not saying buying a house is not for you. However, it's definitely not for everyone. Now, I know what you're gonna tell me. You're gonna say that renting a house is just throwing money away. But if you buy instead, the money that you're gonna throw away is gonna be put into something which you're gonna eventually own, right? Wrong. I'm gonna debunk this and tell you the 5 reasons why renting might be the better choice for you and the cheaper choice. Starting with the first reason why you should not buy a home, and that is the opportunity cost of money. When you want to buy a house, what you need to do is start saving up for a down payment, which means that you're gonna take a portion of your paycheck and put it in a savings account and take another one and put it in a savings account. You get the point. I'm not gonna keep going. But this means that the money sitting in your bank account is not going to be generating any money for you. It's not going to be working for you. In fact, it's just going to be losing its value. When people are planning to buy a home, what they usually do is they pull up a mortgage calculator and then they start calculating how much it will cost for them to buy a house and how much the monthly mortgage payments would be. And they compare that to the rent they would pay if they were to rent a similar home. That's going to show them that buying a house is going to be cheaper when it comes to the payments, the monthly payments. However, they do not calculate the opportunity costs. When you buy a house, you tie up a big chunk of your money in the down payment. Now, I know over time this is going to build up and the house is most probably going to increase and depreciate over time, and then you are going to make profit. However, if you compare it to other places where you can place that money instead of tying it up in a house, for example, the stock market, you can generate a lot more profit. And as history has showed us, the profit you get from owning a house is not as good as the profit you can get when compared to other investments. Between the years 1928 and 2013, a study was made in order to calculate the average annual return of the housing market compared to the stock market. The housing market returned an average of 3.7% every year compared to the stock market, which returned an average of 9.5% every single year. So before you go out and buy a house, or the next time you're actually planning on buying a house, make sure you calculate the opportunity cost of the down payment you're going to be putting towards the house and compare it to investing that money in something else that may generate higher returns. The second reason you should not buy a house is not having an exit strategy or a plan B. Many people dive into buying a house without having an actual exit strategy because in their heads, the worst that can happen is I just sell the house, right? Wrong. I'll explain. Buying a house is very expensive. Not only you have to pay a down payment, but you actually have to pay about 1 to 2% of the home value in fees. And when selling your house, aside from how much time it's going to take you to find a buyer, it's usually very expensive. Between escrow costs, transfer taxes, and commissions to real estate agents and many more fees, this is going to add up to about 4 to 6% of the home value, which will probably yield into you losing money instead of profiting if you decide to sell that house in the short term. Instead, if you use that money to invest in crypto or in the stock market, now guys, I do use these as examples just for simplicity. There are many other investments out there, but these are investments I use and just for the simplicity of this video. So if you use that money to invest in the stock market or crypto, you can easily sell with just literally one click and then you're out, and that's your plan B. That's it. Just one click and you're out. The third reason you should not buy a house is home maintenance and repairs. Now, as a renter, we never think about that stuff. If something were to break, we just call the landlord comes or sends someone in, they fix it, and that's it. But when you're a homeowner, it's different. it is recommended that homeowners budget 1% of the house cost for maintenance. At some point, it is inevitable that you're going to have to pay for fixing something or maintaining something, whether it's paying your utility bills such as trash or having a gardener come in every week to fix up your lawn, all the way to fixing a broken air conditioner or replacing the whole roof, for example, which can be very, very expensive. Basically, it could be anything you can and you cannot think of. And you absolutely need extra cash in order to pay for that, because you do not want to be paying those on your credit card and pay a lot of interest on it. You need cash in order to pay it off completely and get rid of the problem, which means that's going to be more cash on the side, not invested, not working for you. So think about that as well. The fourth reason you should not buy a house is because you only budgeted for your mortgage. Renting is easy. All you have to do is budget for how much money you owe the landlord plus your utilities if you owe any, and usually the landlord pays for water and trash and small stuff you don't even have to worry about. But as a homeowner, you should budget for much more than that. For example, property taxes. In New Jersey, which by the way has one of the highest property taxes in the whole US, the property tax is 2% of your home value. So if your house costs $500,000, you are paying $833 every single month just in property taxes. Think about that. Just think about it. I'm waiting, think about it. Another thing is insurance. When you rent a house, you have the option to get renter's insurance, which costs about $10 to $20 every single month. That's it. Comparing that to when you own a house, you have to pay homeowner's insurance, which usually costs a decent amount of money. For example, in New Jersey, the average is about $145 per month. In addition to that, some states require you to have additional insurances such as fire insurance and earthquake insurance. In addition to that, buying and selling a house comes with very high transaction fees. When you decide to rent a house, you pay about a $40 application fee and the security deposit, which you usually get back after you leave the house and if you actually take good care of where you're living. Comparing that to buying or selling a house, when you buy a house, you pay about 1 to 2% of the home cost in fees, and when you want to sell a house, you pay about 4 to 6% in fees. The fees included when buying a house are transfer of title fees, inspection fees, and legal fees if you decide to hire a lawyer. Also, the fees that come with selling a house are commission fees, escrow costs, and transfer of title fees. The fifth reason you should not buy a house is lack of equity or the slow equity that comes with owning a house. When people buy a house, they usually buy one that's move-in ready, which means that it does not require any fixing up, which means that they're not going to be able to buy it under market value, fix it up, and build equity within a few months because they fixed it up and now the house is worth more. When they do that, building equity with the house usually takes a long time. Which means that if you're planning on staying in a house 10 years plus or for the long term, this probably will yield a good return because you're slowly building equity and your money is increasing over time. However, if you decide to stay for a shorter period of time, you probably won't make as much profit unless the real estate market goes up, which definitely is not guaranteed, but also the stock market is not guaranteed to go up. But assuming the housing market stays the same and it does not fluctuate, staying for a shorter period of time would end up having you lose money. And if you don't lose money and let's say you break even, it would be a complete waste of time, and maybe renting would be easier and way less of a headache for you than actually buying. So now that all the nonsense about renting is like throwing away money is out the window, let me just emphasize that I'm not discouraging you from buying a house, but I really am encouraging you to do your research and make sure you actually know what the costs and the actual costs are of buying the house is, and decide whether it is actually cheaper and more financially reasonable for you to actually rent than buy. After all, there's a lot of benefits to owning your own house. Even though it's not the financially reasonable thing to do, it probably may be the reasonable thing for you to do. It has a lot of benefits such as, well, having a place to live and not worrying about the landlord deciding to kick you out or putting any restrictions on you. And also, most of the time, buying a house for the long run is usually very profitable and can make you a very good amount of money. Again, it's very situational. Everyone's life is different. Buying a house might be the right decision for you, but it might not be for me. But at the end of the day, make sure you do your research and really calculate how much money you need in order to own a house, and not just budget for the mortgage. You need to budget for repairs, because let's say your air conditioner went out in the middle of summer and now you either have to die of a heat stroke or you have to put that money on your credit card and pay 30% interest every month. Then you're gonna have to pick your poison and decide what you want to do in that situation. So make sure if you want to buy a house to be prepared and budget accordingly. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to make a video of why you should buy a house. Let me know in the comments down below, and let me know what you think about this video and what you think about my reasoning of why you should not buy a house. Hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one. Peace out.